Hello and welcome. Today in this video I will begin with the engine assembling, but before that I will just show you a few interesting parts about this engine and why it is quite hard for rebuilding. Even if this is a two-stroke engine, it is quite complicated. It is very different from other two-stroke engines that I have done before. So one of the first things on this crankshaft are these two axles. They look like any other standard axle, but the thing is this part here is part of the bearing, and also this one here. So if this part is damaged, then you need to replace this. You need to make these new parts. Luckily this part here is still original, so this is old part and this one is completely new. So after you rebuild crankshaft, and if you don't have luck you need to make these new parts, the second problem are these bearings. I searched for them quite long time and tried to find where can I buy them, but I was not lucky. Every page on the internet that sells Victoria parts doesn't have these bearings. Now maybe if I lived in Germany, so it probably is much easier to find these bearings, but on internet there are no bearings like this. I even searched some Chinese website that sell all kind of bearings, but none of those bearings matched this one. So I had only this shell, and one gentleman in Hungary made these bearings. So these bearings goes here. So there are three bearings. Two goes here and one goes here. There is also fourth bearings, and the fourth one goes here, but that bearing is a standard bearing, so that one is not that much important. And after that, luckily you can buy this on eBay. This is a shaft seal. You need two of those, and they are also, as you can see, not standard. But you can buy them easily on eBay, so this one is not a problem. So as you can see, this crankshaft can move on this bearing, or bearing can move on this axle, so nothing is stopping it. So that is the reason why you have these safety rings, and inside of this housing you will install these safety rings. So you will have two safety rings for one bearings. So you install one safety ring, bearings, and then another one, and this will lock the bearings for moving. And in another situation you will also have this shaft seal, so you will have something like this. So after the crankshaft and all those parts, we have another complicated part, and that is the piston. As you can see, it is not standard two-stroke piston. It has several holes, Now through these holes, since there are no standard channels here for fuel to enter, so the job is done through this piston. So the fuel will enter through one of those, or probably through this and this hole, and it will go into a compression chamber. This part here is probably for the fuel to enter through carburetor, so this is where the carburetor is going to be installed, and this is how the piston will be installed inside. So at one point this hole here will be lined up with one of those two holes, and the fuel will enter through this hole here. So as you can see, inside there are lots of holes. So this is definitely not a standard two-stroke engine that you can see these days. So rebuilding this engine is a not easy task. Most important part on this housing are those, on this one is these two numbers. There can be maybe one number or even three. So this one has a 76 stamp on, and also here we have 76. So this means that this part of the housing and this part of the housing are from the same engine. If these two numbers does not match, then that means that this part is from one engine and this part is from some other engine, and at that point it probably is going to happen that when you install parts inside, when you begin to assembling these two parts in one piece, then something will stuck, because the holes that are drilled here will not fit on these two. So the center of this hole will probably be different from the center of this hole or any other that is drilled. So that is very important if you are buying vehicle like I am buying, when everything is disassembled, that you need to search for these numbers and they need to be the same on both sides. And that means for some other engine, like also the Puch has the same numbers, Horex also have. So if any of those numbers are not matching, you will have problem. I noticed that there are two types of this engine. So this is one type of the engine. The other type of the engine have a speedometer hub somewhere here. Now I have one part of the engine. So this is the KR25, and it is almost identical like that other KR25 engine. So it has hole for the speedometer hub, and also you have these two channels for the fuel. But the difference here from 26 model and 25 is that you have different bearings, and it is different. So there are two types of the engines, at least to my knowledge. So after this part is cooled down, I will install this shaft seal, and that will finish installing the bearings for the crankshaft. So after installing this shaft seal, it is time to begin with the gearbox assembling. But before that, there is one important thing to know, and that thing is this part here, and also this part here. So this is some sort of the, let's call it a shaft seal. It goes here. So when the engine is spinning, the oil will start to leak out, but there is a small channel on this part, and that will pick up the leaking oil and return it back to the engine. So this part is spinning like this. So oil will enter here, and then it is going to be returned back to the engine. So the important thing is that the space between this part and this part here needs to be minimum. So I don't know exactly how much space must be between this part here. This particular part here is it's 0.10 millimeter. On other housing that I have, one part has a 0.25 millimeter. So that part is probably used up. Now there maybe are some manuals that have an exact measurement, I don't know, but that is one of the important things before assembling you need to check out. And also here you have the same thing. You have this channel, it goes inside, and when this gear is spinning, it will return oil back to the engine. Since there is no shaft seal like a Max engine or Lux engine has. Then and also the space between these parts need to be minimum. As I said, I don't know exact measurement, but I have taken the best parts from 3 engines, so I am hoping that this will be enough. I also forgot to mention one important thing, and those are these two small covers. Now this cover was here. It can be easily damaged from the loose chain, so here is one small hole. So this is where the oil would leak. You need to check out those two parts, are they leaking. So you only need to install some liquid inside, wait for a few hours to be certain, and then check are there any leaks. So there are also these two parts that need to be checked before the engine assembling.